Well, good morning, Miss Ellen. Oh, wait a minute. You're not Miss Ellen.
I am not Miss Ellen. Miss Ellen had something she had to go to this weekend.
Oh.
She is away.
Well, I hope she's doing something fun.
I believe she is.
Oh, good.
We'll
good.
have to ask her when she gets back.
Good. She works hard.
Right.
She
But I'm
deserves
Miss
a little
Jamie,
vacation. This is Miss Jamie.
This is Miss Jamie.
Miss Jamie. And Miss Jamie has been with us for a long time, helping with children's ministry. And before this, you were at another church. You were just saying another Presbyterian church.
I've been at lots.
And you've been all around the country.
Actually, I had Miss Ellen's job here at Shadyside 35 years ago. Okay, so think about that, boys and girls. 35 years ago, huh? Your parents weren't born.
Some of them might not have been
Or
born.
maybe I had your parents in Sunday school here.
Wow. So kind of what we're hearing here is that Miss Jamie is very experienced.
There you go. That's the nice way of saying old, isn't it?
I didn't say old, Miss Jamie. I said very experienced. She's got a lot of experience. So Miss Jamie knows what she's doing. However, this is her first time with us here back in the chapel with our live stream that also happens. So we'll be talking back and forth and helping each other out with what comes next.
So y'all think about calling Miss Ellen next week and telling her all the things I didn't do correctly, and it'll be just fine. I can take that.
It's all correct. There are no mistakes, only things to improve upon. All right, friends. Well, we're going to start with our 3 chimes. We're just going to use the piano today because I forgot to get out the old chime. So on that 3rd chime, when you can't hear it anymore, you can put your hand into the air. Here's the first one. And the second. And the 3rd. I think the plane flying overhead is louder than the piano right now.
At the end,
Let's
maybe.
do our call to worship. I'll put it on the screen so everybody can see it. Be still and know that God is here. Be still and know that Jesus is Lord. Be still and know God's word is here.
And we should light the candle.
Yes. I don't know why Miss Ellen always has trouble with that. Miss Jamie gets it on her first try.
That is
Beginner's
God
luck.
being gracious to a beginner. That is all that is.
That is God being gracious to a beginner. So, Miss Jamie, I understand that we have a story. Our readings today are from both the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, normally, what I've seen here at Shadyside is we do the Old Testament first and then the New Testament. I wouldn't say normally, a lot of times. Today, I think it's flip-flopped. I think our first scripture reading is from the New Testament, and our second one is from the Old Testament.
Is it?
Did I get that right?
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
Well, you check.
Let's see. Our first scripture reading.
I don't think it is, but it might be.
Is from Mark.
Oh, it is.
It is, yes. Isn't that strange?
Well,
Sometimes we switch it up.
Now, here's the reason it's switched up. Sometimes it gets switched up because the last story that we hear read in worship is usually read by who's ever preaching that day.
Yeah, and they're going to reference that story in their sermon, maybe even reference it back to how it relates to the other
That's right.
story. Right.
And if you knew, we only have 2 verses today out of the New Testament, I believe, from the Gospel of Mark.
Wow, it is a very short reading from
It's a
Mark.
really short reading.
Yes.
And I will show you. This is how you'll know it.
Oh. What do you have here?
Do you recognize that?
That is salt.
That's Morton salt. It's not the kind of salt I usually use. I like pink Himalayan.
Oh, pink
but
Himalayan.
I
You're
thought
so
people
fancy.
might recognize this. And you might know what this is too.
What is this? Flashlight?
A flashlight.
Ooh, interesting. I'm in suspense.
This is exactly Jesus tells his disciples in the Gospel of Mark. He says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its saltiness, it's no good. And all you should do is just throw it out and trample on it. Walk all over it, because it doesn't do a bit of good if it doesn't do the things you need it to do."
Yeah.
So, and did you know that sometimes people will say, "Oh, he's not worth his salt," or "she's not, her work today wasn't worth its salt," because in Bible times, people, particularly the Roman soldiers, were paid not with money, not with gold, but with
Salt?
salt. That's how valuable salt was. What are some of the things we can use salt for? What do you use it for?
Well, I use it for seasoning my food.
Right.
A little bit of salt on my food makes it taste even better. It brings out the flavors.
Right,
I
it brings,
think.
people say it brings out the flavor. So of course people in Bible times were using it for that. I used it, my mother used to do this. When I'd have a sore throat, my mother would make a glass of warm water, not hot, but warm, and she would put lots of salt in it and stir it up till it dissolved, and she'd make me drink some, not swallow it, but gargle.
Gargle.
Gargle, and then I'd spit it into the sink, and we'd rinse it away. But it helped to clear the infection in my throat. If you've ever looked at a throat that's sore, it's either red or it might have little white dots on it, and salt is good for cleaning sores.
Is it good for cleaning anything else or just things inside your throat?
Well, if you have a cast iron skillet or a cast iron pot, have you ever used one of those?
You know, I have. We have a big cast iron and a little cast iron.
That's what I have.
Yeah.
And they're really important that you never use soap and water to clean them.
Oh, isn't that how you clean things though?
I know, it's usually you wash the dishes with soap and water, but cast iron needs to be seasoned. And so you don't want to go using soap and water because it takes out all the seasoning and it doesn't ruin it. You just have to start from the beginning again and start heating it and putting oil in and heating it and putting oil in and wiping it out and then heating it in. And people get really upset if you
Yes, they do.
don't think about it and you put their cast iron in soapy water.
Yeah, because it takes all that seasoning and you got to start all over. But that's
over.
what makes the food taste so good is all
Right.
that seasoning, all of that experience. Just like Miss Jamie has a lot of seasoning.
I thought maybe that's what I'll start saying. I'm not old, I'm seasoned.
You're quite seasoned.
I'm quite
Yes.
seasoned. That's why I'm not touching up the gray in my hair. That's my seasoning.
Oh, yeah. I like that, Miss Jamie. You are seasoned like a good
seasoned.
cast iron.
Boy, that makes me feel really good. Just like a good cast iron skillet.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the salt.
So we got the salt, and now we have the light.
Oh,
Now, the
okay. The
problem
light
with
of the
this-
world. I'm
the
trying to see
problem
where
with
you're
this
going
one is,
here.
even though it has the click, and I click on the side, I don't know if you can hear that,
I hear it.
but you don't see it turning on
It's
because
not.
I took the batteries out.
Oh.
Because this is what Jesus said to us. Jesus said, you are like a light. A city, the light from a city up on a hill. And the whole world can see you sitting up there so brightly. But you never want to cover that light or turn it out. Because if you can't see the light, it doesn't matter if you have a flashlight. If no light comes, you're not getting anywhere in the dark.
No.
If salt that loses its salt, not any good. If a light's put under a bushel basket, no one can use it.
Oh, what's a bushel basket?
You don't know about baskets?
What's a bushel basket?
Oh, a bushel
What
basket
might you
is
use a
wonderful.
bushel basket for?
Well, when you need a bushel of apples.
Oh, like if
Or
you were
you
going
need a
apple
bushel of
picking.
peppers. When you're out in the garden and you're picking and you're putting it in a basket, a bushel basket is a big basket.
Oh, so
Not
not
just a
one of those
little one,
not
like
an
my
Easter,
strawberries
not
are
an
in.
Easter basket.
No. Well,
but-
if you get a really big Easter basket, maybe, but a big basket,
Yeah.
like big, like you have to just put your arms around it. And so if you think about the lanterns that they had in the Old Testament and then in the New Testament in Jesus' time, they were just lanterns like this. And it had to be something people would want to hide so no one would know they were there. They would put a bushel basket over
And that
it.
might even like keep it lit so they didn't have to light it again, but you wouldn't be able to see the light.
But you wouldn't be able to see it. But Jesus said, when you do that, if what you're doing is showing your light, which is God's love, and you're showing God's love to the world, you don't put a basket over it. You want people to see it.
Yeah.
That's our whole idea. So that's our New Testament reading from Mark.
And those 2 lines?
Those 2 lines, it's all about salt and light. Jesus says, I'm the light of the world.
Well, that's super helpful to understand that. And we're going to do the Books of the Bible song, I think, next. So we should definitely do a little cheer for Mark when we get there. And then our other reading is from Esther, so we can do a little cheer from there.
Old Testament, so we'll get
it'll
there
be
too.
Esther first, and then Mark on the New Testament. It's funny, actually, Miss Ellen texted me this week because she was getting the children's bulletin ready, and she was like, guess what I just had to sing to remember where Esther was in the Bible?
Oh,
The Books
that's
of the
right.
Bible
You know, I did the
song.
same thing, holy books.
All right, here we go. These are the holy books. Tell me their names, I'll take a second look. This is God's holy word. Tell God's message till all have heard.
Uh-oh.
Now we gotta flip the page. Oh, thank you, Miss Jamie.
Oh.
Here we go. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges. I'll tell you the truth about the book of Ruth on the 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, and all these things lead to Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and Job. Oh yeah, I want to go to heaven in a righteous robe, singing Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Solomon's song, and the prophets are these: Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Jay's lament, Ezekiel and Daniel in the lion's den.
Oh no! This used to be easier when they were muffled.
Those new pages are very sticky. We're coming up on Hosea.
Okay, you didn't see me do that. There we go.
Here we go with Hosea. Hosea,
Joel, and Amos's tale.
Obadiah, Jonah in the belly of the whale. Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk's cry. Zephaniah, Haggai, and then Zechariah. The last Old Testament book reveals that Malachi points to a brand new deal. These are the holy books. Tell me their names, I'll take a second look. This is God's holy word. Tell God's message till all have heard.
Now on to the New Testament.
New Testament, here comes Mark. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The stories of Jesus, and then move on to Acts and the letters of Paul. Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, all. Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Move on to 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Whoa, 1st Timothy, 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, and James. 2 books for Peter and John's, all 3. Jude, the dude, and Revelation. You'll see that these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ and His grace receive. These are the holy books. Tell me their names, but take a second look. This is God's holy word. Tell God's message till all have heard. Woo. We just get a little bit sweaty after that. That's a lot.
I know. Do you know, when I told you that 35 years ago I was working here and we were singing that song 35 years ago?
You know what else happened 36 years ago?
You were born.
I was! So it's not like...
So you would have been a little baby while we were doing that song.
Yeah. I changed it. I think I made it a little jazzier. Because
When it first started, it was a rap. It went like this. Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy. It was very.
You know, I was a jazz minor at Duquesne, so I had to put a little swing in it. Well, actually, you know what, Miss Jamie, speaking of the light, I had a plan when I came in. I had a song I was going to teach you, and then Miss Jamie was like, no. We have to do this little light of mine because that makes sense for the song that we're singing today, or for the story that we have today. So this is called This Little Light of Mine. I bet most of you know this song, and luckily, it's in public domain.
Yes, so it's allowed.
So we're allowed to do it on our little stream here and in person. But this song goes like this. We think we did it in G, right? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Most of you know that part. Here's a part I didn't even know. Miss Jamie shared it with me today. It's one of the verses, so that's the chorus that we just sang. And this is one of the verses in it, and it goes like this. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Will you sing that one with me at home? And if you're here in person as well? Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Wow, I messed that one up.
Thank you, Mr. D.
Yes, thanks for helping me remember that song, and that was one that we could do today.
Well, how can you do Salt and Light and not do This Little Light of Mine?
Without This Little Light of Mine, yes. Was there Esther story or no
There
Esther
is
story?
a story.
You have 2 stories today
I
for
do.
us?
How much time do we have?
We're good on time. We have
Okay.
about 10.
So my biggest question is this. This story in the book of Esther is about a contest. Have you ever won a contest?
Oh, yes. You would think the first contest that comes to my mind is a music contest.
Right.
I certainly did not win how to play This Little Light of Mine on the piano. I did not win that contest, not today anyway. But the first contest I remember winning was a radio contest. So on radios...
How old were you?
I think I was like 12.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a radio contest. So I listened to the radio, and they said, dial in if we want to hear your best Scooby-Doo impersonations. And do you know what the prize was?
No.
Dog food. I didn't even have a dog.
But you wanted to win.
I wanted to call in.
Because that's what a contest is about.
I wanted to win. I knew I could do it. So I called into the radio station. I got through, and they said, all right, give it to us. And I went, and they said, you're a winner. And I won. I won dog food.
And it feels good to be the winner.
I was so excited, even though it was just a contest for dog food. I was so excited. I'll never forget that.
Well, I was cleaning out a drawer this week, and I found a little slip of paper with a picture of me, and I was holding a little check. I won. It doesn't sound like much now, but back then it was a lot of money. I won $10.
$10?
I won $10 when I was 7 years old for writing a poem that got published in a magazine.
Whoa.
I know, it was a big deal to me. So I'm going to recite it for you.
Oh,
Are you ready?
You have the poem for us. Okay.
I don't even have to, I have it memorized.
You have it, wait, how old were you?
I wrote it, I was 7.
And you have it, okay.
Okay. It's called A Fly. You know, not like the fly that buzzes around and at a picnic and stuff.
Yeah.
A fly.
A fly.
A fly upon my ceiling crawls, upside down, but never falls. This is clever, you'll agree, but when that fly looks down at me, he wonders how I walk or sit, for I am upside down to it. Think about that.
You were 7 when
I
you
was
wrote
7,
that?
and I had to write a poem for class, and I was laying in my bed, and there was a fly on my ceiling, and I started wondering, why don't flies fall off the ceiling? I didn't know about their feet and stuff. I wasn't very scientific. I just wondered why I couldn't walk on the ceiling, but he could. But then my Uncle Anthony, who was my great Uncle Anthony, said to me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm wondering why that fly doesn't fall off the ceiling. And he said, I bet that fly's wondering why you don't fall off the ceiling, because to him, you're upside down.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know about gravity or anything, or
I
flies.
cannot believe you let me tell my Scooby-Doo story.
I like
And
your
had-
Scooby-Doo.
And you had that one.
Oh, that was my. Well, so in the Bible, there's all sorts of contests. There are contests, well, the Olympics were this summer.
Yeah.
So there are contests for the most athletic, and some of you may have, some of our friends probably have won all sorts of things for baseball or soccer or gymnastics. And there are spelling bees, where you have to be able to spell the words really well. And the last one standing.
We have a geography bee at my school for
you
like
do?
knowing geography. Yeah.
And often there'll be awards like ribbons for first, second, and third place for arts and crafts and pictures. So there are all sorts of contests that you can win. But this contest in the book of Esther,
We don't hear about Esther a lot. We
should.
I think maybe since I've been here, we've only heard a sermon or read from Esther once or twice.
Well, I will tell you, if you are in my 3- and 4-year-old class at 11 o'clock later this fall, we will be doing the story of Esther.
Awesome.
Esther was a young woman whose parents had died.
Oh.
I know, sad. But the good news was her uncle, or her second cousin Mordecai, we don't know, he was older than
Mordecai.
her. Mordecai
Sounds
adopted
that
her.
sounds like something from Harry Potter.
It does.
Mordecai.
Mordecai.
Go on, I'm sorry.
This Mordecai is very good.
Yeah, good.
This Mordecai is very good. So Esther is living with Mordecai's family all her life. That's all she knows. She grows up. She's now a young woman. And Mordecai, well, he has a special job. You see, Esther and Mordecai are Jewish. They're Jewish. That's their faith and their religion. And they don't live in Israel where the Jews have lived, because this is a time in history when they lost a war and they lost their whole country. Imagine if we had to pick up and leave and go somewhere. So they're now, all of the Jews are living in Persia, but they don't necessarily have the best jobs, and they don't, they're strangers in a new land.
Yeah.
And the king of that land, so there's King Ahasuerus.
Excuse me?
Ahasuerus. And it sounds like I'm going to,
Wow.
and that could be a Scooby-Doo word.
Ahasuerus?
Ahasuerus.
Wow.
And it sounds like somebody you want to say Gesundheit.
Yeah.
Ahasuerus. Anyway, King Ahasuerus, he is a nice king, but he's not the smartest king. And he's a little proud. He likes being king. So he listens to his counselors sometimes. And then there's a fourth person. So there's Esther, Mordecai, her cousin, the king Ahasuerus, and then there is, get ready to boo and hiss. Can you boo and hiss when I say this name?
I'm ready.
This is Haman.
Boo! Haman. The easiest of the names.
I know.
Well, Esther's pretty easy.
Yeah. Haman wanted to be king, but to be king, you had to be born into it. So he thought he could climb the ladder and get to like being the king's top right-hand man.
Doesn't work that way.
That's what he wanted. And the king, not being very bright and listening to his counselors, would then do what Haman told him to do. And it worked.
Oh.
Haman told him that he needed to get a wife. And so the king said, yeah, I'd like a wife. Okay, yeah, I need a queen. And the king, not thinking who's the most intelligent, who's the kindest, who will be the gentlest, who will be the best emissary? Who will be the best hostess? No. He wanted the prettiest girl.
Oh, boy.
I know.
Oh, boy.
Well, pretty is as pretty does, so pretty. And he decided to have a contest. And he said, all the women in my kingdom, I want all the pretty girls that are unmarried, and we're going to have a beauty contest, and the one who wins gets to be queen.
The queen.
Mordecai said, Esther, you should go in for this. You should try this, Esther. Esther said, I don't want to be queen. He said, no, Esther, really. She said, Uncle Mordecai, you remember, we're Jewish. They're not Jewish. They're not going to want a Jewish wife. He said, you don't have to tell them you're Jewish. You're the prettiest girl I know, Esther. Just go. Well, Esther, since she grew up in Mordecai's house, said, I listen to my elders. I'll listen to Mordecai. She went off and she won the beauty contest. All of a sudden, poor little quiet, shy Esther was Queen Esther of all of Persia. And Ahasuerus, the king, was pretty happy with her. After all, she was quite the looker. Mm-hmm. But he found out she was more than that. She was kind. And she always thought about the king's needs and what he might want. One day, as Haman was climbing the ladder, he became second in control. And he loved the power. He decided that he was okay because he was the king's favorite person.